Welcome to another Faith Horizons podcast. Today I'm
Thank
here
you.
with Nola Wood. Welcome, Nola.
Thank you, Nathan. So happy to be here with you. Thank you.
I just wanted to kind of get to know you a little bit. I printed off this, conservative champion because Nola Wood has been representing the Conservative Party in Kansas City for quite a while, and she'll just tell you a little bit more about that. I don't know all the full details. I know it. I printed off a page that she wrote up herself, answering questions that they had asked her. But just tell us a little bit of your backstory and how you got involved in politics and why it matters.
Okay, thank you. I grew up in South St. Louis, and everybody was Democrat. And,
Oh, wow.
The idea of Republican was like, what was that? And when I came to know the Lord, when I was 23, that was early 70s. And, out of that time period, we have seen the Jesus Revolution movie,
Yes.
which was about my generation.
Oh,
and,
wow.
During that time, I started reading the scripture because I realized that this is the truth and I need to know it. And I quickly came to understand that the pro-life issue was huge, and as it was at that time with the whole argument over life. And I was so grateful that some friends in the church I was attending back in Wichita at that time started a group called Christians in Action, and with the short little buttons that said CIA. And
we're part of the CIA.
Yeah, so that was very interesting.
That's cool.
And so they informed us on issues that a lot of us had never really thought about. And what I found, the big conclusion that I came to, was that it is an issue of stewardship. The Lord has given us the freedoms that He has given us, and here we are. This is our moment in history. What are we doing with those freedoms?
Yeah.
And so a few of us would go and picket the abortion providers there in Wichita, and on one occasion even the notorious Dr. Tiller came out and tried to talk us out of being there.
Yeah.
We were handing out flyers written by Melody Green, wife of Keith Green, who was very famous at that time, talking about the value of life.
Wow.
And later I found that Dr. Tiller even at some point was encouraging some women to go ahead and have their babies and gave them up for adoption. And I actually have a friend who adopted one of those children.
Wow.
So it's, someone said that no one is all good or all bad. And, sometimes people who are doing a lot of evil will actually do something good in the midst of that. But it gives you hope to reach out and encourage people to seek the Lord and seek His will.
Okay. Yeah, wow, that's so cool. And you had interacted with him. You said while you were in Wichita,
Yeah.
or he had come out, and then you guys were picketing. So the pro-life, would you say the pro-life thing kind of decided your political side? Was that kind of what was a big push towards deciding a political side?
Very much so. At the time,
Yeah.
there were pro-life Democrats too, but I would say by the 90s,
Mm-hmm.
that, definitely in current time, the Democrats have narrowed their scope and they don't allow that anymore. But with the Republican Party, we have become the big tent party, and we do encourage people, to, even at my KC Conservatives meetings, I often share that we are the big tent party, and let's talk about the things that we agree upon, and let's not waste our time arguing on the things that we don't agree upon.
Yeah, you share with me on the phone. Let's find our common, what we can a common alignment that we have, and work towards that. There's a lot of truth to that too.
Yeah.
And this Faith Horizons podcast, I do interviews with people all over the Kansas City metro, and I know that there are Christians that are Democrat and there are Christians that are Republican, and so it's kind of like, this is right now. There's 80,000 or so denominations in our world as far as Christian denominations, and then the Democrat Republican can just provide another separation, and then I'm just saying, this kind of like really brings to the front, the John 17 where God said, where Jesus was praying, that they might be united, because he knew that there would just be so many things that we could divide upon. And that's what you're talking about, the Kansas City conservative. Let's not, fight over what we disagree on. Let's work towards what we do. Yeah. And I mean, and some argument is helpful, because you want to, some challenge, some struggle is helpful. But if it's all it's going to be is struggle, well, then let's not fight that fight.
Yeah. Let's see what we can accomplish together on friends that have the same best intentions, and acknowledging that some friends have been misinformed by people they should have been able to trust.
Oh, that's true.
And so they're anti-biblical on some issues, and they don't even know it. But I have, especially in the city, I have, even in the recent school board election, I endorsed and helped get a couple of friends elected who are Democrat, but they are wanting to take the more conservative course
approach
in the things that they're working on that are before them.
So let's just talk about that for a second, because it seems like that both parties, I mean, at their totally, they both have good intentions, because people have good intentions, and people are what make up the parties. So they both have good intentions, but how are those intentions being, how do the parties treat those intentions? Like, let's say that the Democratic Party needed to help somebody versus the Republican Party needed to help somebody. How would they handle those differently?
That is a very interesting question. Personally, within the Republican Party, I encourage people to get behind and help the candidates that you feel most closely aligned with, and don't worry about others that maybe, you have serious concerns. Within the Democrat Party, I know there are some people who, they could have run as Republicans, but they ran as Democrats because they felt like they would never get elected if they were a Republican in the city.
In Kansas City, Missouri, it's, Yeah,
I know that scenario, but
because you ran, and you ran. What was it? 4 years ago? 3 or 4 years ago?
Actually, I ran the first time in 2010.
Okay,
it was one of these situations where this guy who was running for re-election for state representative was going to be unopposed, and I said, "Come on, everybody, who's going to run against this guy?" And so then it comes around to, well, since you care, you should run. Well, really? Okay, I'll try. Well, I got 39% of the vote.
Oh, that's awesome.
As a first-time candidate on training wheels against a two-term incumbent.
You were more than likely going to lose from the outset, but you ran.
Yeah, and so some change, I think, does need to be made incrementally, because there were people that I got out and canvassed door to door and talked to and met new friends, and out of that was born the next year I started the KC Conservatives, because I thought I've built this circle of friends who, what am I going to do about it? I can't just let it drop. And so and that group, we've met monthly for 13 years now.
Wow, that's awesome. Yeah. So the KC Conservative for 13 years. You started that in 2011?
Yeah.
Or 2011. Wow, that's cool. That was 3 years after the 2008. Anyway, so I was praying a lot about our city, just in the past, and this was during I was just praying about our city, praying about our city, and then I started, looking at I think they were running the Kansas City Spirit or something like that at that time, and so I started filling out forms to redo. There was just something going on that the city was doing, and then the Lord was I felt like the Holy Spirit just telling me, hey, you need to get involved in not the politics, but you need to participate in the politics. You got to go, you got to vote. And so many times as Christians. And we had talked about this before. You said this kind of is a little bit of a soapbox for you. So many times as Christians, we just all feel like we're just going to go sit on our rapture rugs and then just wait for Jesus to come back, and then poof, we're out of here. Yeah. And it's like, really?
And when you look at history, you wonder, were the believers in 1917 in Russia of that mindset?
Yeah.
But their lives and their children and grandchildren and great-grandchildren's lives were changed forever because of what happened there. Same thing in Germany in the 30s, that lots of good people we're just going to,
toe the line or something like that.
just going to have church and not worry about politics. And so as good stewards of the freedoms the Lord has provided to us, I strongly urge everyone to get involved, get registered, vote, and I share information on personal recommendations that I have from trusted sources, and that's my email list has grown from a small list of fellow homeschoolers at the time to about 1,800 people that I share information with regularly.
That's great, and I'll provide a link for it in our show notes if people want to sign up for that.
Great.
It's just, Nola provides pretty good insight when it comes to what's going on. I mean, we had talked about there's currently a lawsuit, that's going on, but all those things are in the email from what I've read, they're in the email. And so, we're going to talk a little bit about this lawsuit against the county for taxes here in a second, but all of that's in the email. And so I'll provide a link for that in the show notes.
Great. Thank you.
But anyway, so I became a Christian, so I started voting it. So I voted for, Mayor Lucas. I voted for Mayor Lucas because I felt like between the two candidates at that time, I think it was Jolie Justice and Mayor Lucas, and now Mayor Lucas. And I voted for Mayor Lucas because I really felt the Holy Spirit just said, hey, he's a local. He's participated in a lot of the society in Kansas City. I think he was in him with his aunt or something was that over in Ruskin Heights. He went to Barstow. He went to KU. I think at one time he might have even attended some of the help facilities of our community. And so it's really like this is a Kansas City made person.
Yeah. And
really, he really does care about the people. And, whether or not he's, Democratic or not. But anyway, so I voted for Quentin Lucas, and I really felt like that.
Yeah, I did too. I endorsed him, and, he's given me lots of reasons to regret that. But the choice at the time, the famous phrase, the lesser of two evils, I really feel that he did not do as much harm as his opponent would have. Mm-hmm. And it's hard to get good people to run in these kinds of situations because you're basically investing a year of your life and whatever money you would have made with that time and amount of resources. And so we didn't have anybody run against him this last time that was any threat to him.
No.
And so in those situations, the best we can do is try to have some influence after the fact. But it is hard because he's not listening to us.
Well, and he really is, I mean, from a campaign perspective, he really is a very gregarious, very outgoing, very likable individual.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Right off the bat. You know what I mean? So his policies might speak something differently, but, he's one heck of a person to shake the hand of, I'm sure.
Yeah. I've got pictures with him.
I mean, he's just, so anyway, but, just to re-describe, what conservative versus the Democratic again is. So how can we break that down? Because I had thought that conservatism creates more like interdependence on yourself. It almost like trusts the people to make their own decisions, whereas it seems like the Democratic Party is more like more dependence on the government.
Yeah.
And sometimes there's a need for that, but then it's taking that back and then giving it back once the dependence is the dependent time is over. Like, that, but it seems like, once any government has something, they don't want to give it back. You know what I mean?
And there's so many sad illustrations of that. I'm a health insurance agent, and to see what they've done to healthcare
with the Obamacare stuff
is very serious, and it's very hard to push back. The same with all these different other areas of bureaucracy that just grow and grow and become very self-sustaining, and it's very serious. I really feel that even with the situation that has unfolded with the Jackson County tax assessment this past year and 4 years ago,
Yeah.
that we have a real opportunity this year to make a difference in these fall elections, because a lot of regular people have been awakened to the fact that, the people that they thought they could trust in, as President Trump would call the swamp, have not been so trustworthy. And they've made excuses, and they've said, well, we've just got to have the extra money. And if it taxes grandma out of her home, well.
And you had brought that up, the point that, so right now you're in support of a lawsuit against the county, based off the fact that they unjustly increased taxes on people, even though it maybe needed to be rectified over time because they were below value, whatever. It should not have been done the way it was because it created so much turmoil. But you're saying that the people that are for that are saying we need the money are actually the Democratic Party right now.
Yeah,
I mean, in our city,
exactly.
So the government wants more money because it wants to be bigger government and take care of the people. But then it's gonna, like you said, when at an individual level, it's really creating a.
It demeans the potential of the individual to figure out and make their own way. Entrepreneurism. If somebody got laid off and they're a carpenter, to be able to go out and start a small business doing home repairs, they've made it much more difficult in where you have the big government and in so many levels, so many layers of it. And so I'm really hopeful that this tax assessment overreach by the county has awakened a lot of regular people who weren't paying much attention and just
just voting, with the thing. But now you're encountering something that this is where your voting has led you to this not so pleasant awakening.
Yeah, maybe voting wrong, or maybe not even voting because it's beyond me kind of attitude. So I really encourage everyone to at least get registered, at least find out, get sources you trust for your recommendations on who you support and who you vote for.
A recent vote that just came up in Kansas City was the stadium vote. The vote yes for the 3.8 or 0.38 or something percent tax, or the vote no for this. And I really just thought, normally Kansas City would just pass that, not a problem. You know what I mean? But they said no, and I was surprised. I'm like, man, these people are upset.
Yeah. Well, we really had a progression here from what happened last year, where lots of regular people were being threatened with being taxed out of their homes. Then in November, we defeated a tax that they thought they could pass no problem, and then a couple of weeks ago we defeated this, and it was an amazing coalition of left and right. So
yeah, that's what I'm saying. It's like this is very bipartisan.
Very much so.
Yeah. That's my point. I'm like, these things are affecting both sides, whether you're Democratic or you're Republican.
Yeah.
And like I think there's sometimes where big government is helpful. Like during COVID, like God bless, the world, invited, it created, doubled down on the problems where the government was needed to help create financial strength because of the limitations they put on the population. You know what I mean? But then after that, you have to release that control back to the population. So I'm saying is there's times where more government is helpful, but then there's other times where, government just needs to,
Some have called it Uncle Sam's plantation.
That's so it's a really sad way to look at it, but yeah, in some respects that's true.
Yeah. We'll give you the basics, and don't go out and get a job because then you'll lose what we're giving you.
Yeah.
So
said something about that too. You said that people have been. Was that during the COVID thing? Oh, when they quit their jobs. That's right. Yeah. You said that.
Well, during COVID, a lot of people took early retirement. So people in my demographic, they couldn't work anymore, so go ahead and take retirement so you get enough to live on,
right,
but
right.
you're not making, big bucks. And then it has made it more difficult for them to then go ahead and turn around and, well, there are jobs available. And matter of fact, a lot of employers are begging. I mean, we see the ads all the time for, help wanted everywhere. And the workforce has been sidelined. A lot of people are sitting at home and, they're accepting just enough to get by, but then inflation has hit, and what would get you by before doesn't get you by now. So they've
already basically consigned themselves to do that based off of the fact that if they go back to work, they would lose what they did get, right?
What they agreed to, yeah.
Okay, what they agreed to, yeah. See, those are the issues that are putting limitations on the population, and I understand that. Working with an employer, I work with a cleaning company in Kansas City, and finding help is very difficult. and when you do find the good ones, you hold on to them and treat them as best you can. So, on the pro-life thing, we've had, we didn't really talk about this before, but there, recently there was a shooting at our parade, in Kansas City, which, really kind of stirred the pot for Christians, for politicians, for everybody in the city got stirred by this, this shooting in Kansas City. And so everybody's trying to jump in and, how do we resolve these issues? And, clearly, I've been a part of a couple of different groups that have been talking about that, this is not going to be solved overnight. We didn't get here, in 1 year, we didn't get here in 2 years, but what are some of the things that the conservatives or the political influence could do to kind of start, how can these things be addressed? Because you were talking about entrepreneurship. Well, job creation would be helpful in this regard, because anyway.
Yeah, there have been a lot of negative influences that have fed into the lawlessness that we have. And, over the years, the whole idea of big government telling a woman that, as long as there wasn't a husband in the house, then, she could have lots of, have money enough to get by, but you're not getting rich. And so, and that raised up who knows how many young people that didn't have the benefit of a father, and what culturally would have been provided in years past, the government effectively took away in such a counterproductive, seemingly we're going to do something good for you, but then it ended up, the outcome has been very bad. I am very concerned that we're in this season of people, the 11th hour, what are you going to do now? Yeah. And so we do have good people who are stepping up to run for office that have a chance now, because there are so many people awakened by, the parade shooting. Yeah. And so we have a wonderful candidate running for Jackson County prosecutor, and who really pays that much attention to local offices until the bad circumstances get our attention.
And then, we talked about this just a second. We mentioned it in our conversation, on the phone the other day, was the school to prison pipeline. And really, in the elections and voting and stuff like that, you're voting in superintendents, you're voting in, all this stuff is involved in the voting, right?
And a lot of people, truthfully, I think there have been times when people didn't vote because they didn't know, these are just names on a ballot. And so that's why I got so involved of seeking out good sources that I could trust, of those judges on the ballot, of those school board candidates. Who do you recommend? Who do you know would be the better of the two or three or however many? And so that's so a lot of people have signed up for my email list just at the time of elections, just to get that information, because people are busy. We're like on this treadmill of life, that just trying to make enough money to pay the bills.
That's why, a voting list is actually helpful, because it's like, I don't have the time to do a voting list or to understand all these candidates. So that's why, having a trusted person to, refer back to of, oh, let me see what this person would have picked. Okay, well, I'll pick that person too, because this person has more more time investment on understanding the candidates.
Thank you for trusting me, and I have my trusted sources.
Yeah,
so.
and so and obviously we may, and again, like, just because somebody gets picked that maybe that wasn't on your list, doesn't mean that person wants crime in Kansas City. Everybody doesn't want crime in Kansas City. Good people don't want, and I think there's good people across the board. It's just, what are the solutions that you're creating to get there? And that's kind of how the politics really kind of weighs into this. What are the solutions you're creating? Are you creating dependence on the government? Are you creating more interdependence? I want the Jackson County Jail to empty out because we don't have any need of it. You know what I mean?
Well, that would be ideal. But it's going to be a few years before we get to that point.
But currently, we still need it. It's like,
yeah,
it's really not pleasant. But it's like, so.
So much has been done that has been so counterproductive, and we have a long way to go. But, the Lord's at work, and we keep praying, and we keep doing what we can.
Yeah. And so would you say, okay, so like politics on a local level, just trying to define it one more time, does it just basically determine how money is spent? How major resources are spent?
That's a lot of it, yeah.
Yeah, because it seems like when I listen to these city councils with our mayor, a lot of times they're trying to decide, where are we going to spend money at? We're going to spend it on the Barney Alice Plaza. We're going to spend money on the new airport, and all these things are pretty, the current stadium. This is all lots of money being spent, you know what I mean? Or we're going to redo these roads. That's money being spent, right? And so right now I think our city has a at least in 2023 it had a $1.9 billion budget. Kansas City, mm-hmm. not Lee Summit, because you're part of the Jackson County Committee, which includes more than just Kansas City, right?
Kansas City and all of Jackson County. So it's the Jackson County Republican Committee. We vote on things to hope to impact the whole county, to do. To encourage the voters to support the people who will do the right thing.
So that includes like Lee Summit, Independence, different parts, right?
But I'm a committee woman in South Kansas City, right here where we are now.
Oh, that's great, yeah. Mm-hmm. Right here in the 64137 zip code.
Exactly.
So are you part of is the county broken down into districts too then?
Yes, and so this is where it gets into the weeds for a lot of people. A lot of people kind of glaze over, but
there's a reason for it, though.
A lot of us didn't have much civics growing up in school, and so within the city, the whole city of Kansas City is divided up into wards, and then precincts within wards, and then in the county, it's all divided up into townships and precincts within the townships.
Oh, wow!
And then if you go north of the river, it's different counties. So again. You need to have kind of a little bit of an overview, but don't get lost in the weeds, because you don't have to comprehend all of the minutiae of it to be able to know enough to vote properly.
So what role do you specifically sit in right now? I know, is it the vice president or is it the...
Oh, I was vice chair in 20 to 22, but currently I'm just a county committee woman.
You're the county,
just a member of the... And there, I don't know, I forget how many... we have currently, and we always have some spots that we still need to fill, because there are areas where we just need more people to step up to serve.
So really, like, it's your position then to understand and make people aware of what's going on, and then who to vote for, and to try to. It's a very big ship.
Yeah.
We're steering a very big ship here.
Yeah.
It's a very big ship.
And so we each have to get up every day and figure out what are my priorities today, this week, this month, this year.
Yeah.
And as a committee woman, basically I've just committed to be at a meeting for a couple hours once a month. But then what are you going to do with the opportunities that you learn about? And we hope that our committee members will get out and talk to the voters in their area and share information and help the good candidates win.
Oh, that's awesome. Yeah. So, yeah, well, thank you so much for your time today. I was just trying to figure out all the little details and everything. So how would as far as like the Kansas City Conservatives group, what's the best way for them to get involved with that or to attend that or be a part of that if they want to?
We actually meet the third Monday of each month at Grandview Buffet.
Oh, at the Grandview Buffet.
Yeah, in their meeting room.
Okay,
and
cool.
The best way to get information of like who's going to speak this month, and I also host a First Thursday Club that we're currently meeting at one of the community rooms of the KCPD. The best way to contact me is my email, or people can look me up on Facebook, Nola Wood. That's the easiest way. Just this name is spelled easily, and and I'm always available to try to answer questions and be helpful.
Oh, that's great. And then how do we connect them with your email list if they want to? Do we just
email me, nola.wood@sbcglobal.net.
Okay, got it. And I'll make sure to include both of those in the show notes if people want to get more involved and understand what you're involved with. So
Great.
Anyway,
thank you.
I'm all for the bipartisan Christian movement if at all possible.
Yeah.
Because I want to see thy kingdom come, and I think it involves all people. So
yes.
All right. Well, God bless. Thank you so much.
You too. Thank you, Nathan. Really appreciate the opportunity to share with you.
God bless.